Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where we let the inner warrior shine in their light. Today, I have the pleasure of a friend of mine, Staci Zacher. Staci and I met through a company called Juice Plus. Staci is a former nurse and now raising several boys and a husband, and also an entrepreneur and building her own team and living what most of us would call the American dream of her time is her time and she gets to decide where to spend it. So, Staci, I'm glad today you took an hour to spend it with us. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, like I said, we met through the company Juice Plus. One of your reps is a friend of ours, and she introduced us. We actually got to come to your beautiful home and have Christmas party, play some games, get to know you and your family, and been kind of admiring you and what you've done ever since then. Can I ask you where you grew up and how you got started?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm actually from Arizona.
Oh,
Oh,
you're a unicorn.
yeah, born and raised right here.
Okay.
Um, I moved away, so I played softball in college. And so I moved away just for college at Florida State and then came right back here because I was going to have a family and wanted to be close to the family. So yeah.
One sunshine state to another. Which town did you grow up in?
I was more like Glendale, Peoria.
Okay.
So yeah.
So for those who don't know, that's the west side of the valley. And if you are born and raised here, then that was when Glendale was like the edge of the world to the rest of Phoenix,
Right.
small town. What did you have brothers and sisters or only child?
No, I had two sisters. So I was the middle, which is the best. I always said the forgotten middle child because I wasn't. I'd make sure nobody forgets me. So, yeah, I have an older and a younger sister, and we all played sports. So we were all the
Okay.
boys that my dad never had. So,
So you were the boys your dad never had, and now you have the boys that he wish he had.
yeah, exactly.
Nice. So what was it like in Glendale back in the day? What was kind of your childhood?
So my childhood was a lot like my childhood or my kids' childhood. So we played sports. So, when we were younger, before sports really started, we did a lot of camping. Camping was a big thing. And I actually missed that. My kids love camping too. Um, but once sports started, it's funny, I was a gymnast before, gymnast before. And then it got so busy with gymnastics because you just keep ranking up or whatever, that it ended up being like 5 days a week. And then you have to add these dance classes on. The funny part is we're like, well, let's try softball and give us a little more time. Well, well, then that took over. And I guess if you like to compete, you just find another competition to be in. So that's when softball took over for us. And that's really our life was sports on the go.
So as a gymnast, what was your specialty?
I liked the floor because I had a
Dance.
little pop and dance and like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I can see because you brought that into your adult life too. Because whenever I see you, you're always dancing around, even if it's on the rebounder, you're just kind of,
right.
bopping around.
And sometimes falling. I don't know if you ever saw that video, but that was fun.
No, those blooper reels you leave out.
Yeah.
What position did you play in softball then?
Well, in college, I was third baseman. So
Okay.
before
Ooh,
then, when you're young, you play them all. So then catcher and then pitcher. And then it was catcher and pitcher. You have to work a lot of extra hours. So then I was like, well, that doesn't really, I don't really want to do that. You got to show up a little early. And so that's when third base just became my hot spot, the place I wanted to be.
yeah. Well, the third base is the hot spot. That's what they call it. So, how did you transition to college in Florida? I mean, that's one sunny place to another, but why Florida?
Well, the money talked. So that one was scholarship. So I first started playing here at Phoenix College because honestly, I didn't want to go away yet. I wasn't ready to leave the nest. So I played over at Phoenix College, which was so awesome. So happy I did that. And then from there, FSU saw me play and then they picked me up from there. So then going into FSU, it was a big change. I mean, it's far from home. It's far. And I'm a big family girl, and being away from mom and dad and the puppies, the dogs, I think is the hardest part, right? So then I took the dogs with me because I was like, I can't do life without my pups. So, but yeah, no, it was a big change to be so far. But you know, that homesick piece of it, and it was hard, like being at Florida State. I'll tell you, one of the coaches, she wasn't a fan of me. And it's, I don't know, I look at it now and it was so hard. I used to call my dad back then and was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. Crying after practices and stuff. And gosh, Daryl, I look back on it now and I tell my boys this all the time. I was like, what a blessing all that was, how hard things are, but then how it shapes you into so much more than you ever could have imagined.
Yeah, working through the hard, I think is, and especially I feel, I mean, I traveled all over the United States. I would just throw a dart at a map and travel, and see move. I just say, well, there's where I'm moving now. So I didn't really have that close family tie that you have and that you've brought into your own relationship. So when people talk about missing home, that's a concept that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But I admire because I see it a lot and I see how it shapes people. But I do believe that every child should move at least 2 hours or further away from home, because that's when you really grow up. It's one thing to move out of the house and still be able to come home at, like, our our son now still comes home and cooks whatever we have in the refrigerator and grocery shops
Right.
in the pantry, right? But the true growth, I feel, happens when you're at least 2 hours away, when it's not that luxury and convenience. So what was one of your biggest aha learning moments as a child in Florida, being so close to your family?
Oh, being so far, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um,
Well, close knit to your family, but so far away.
the, the hardest. You know, there was a lot of hard. It's funny. I look back and it was, oh gosh, going to FSU and playing sports. And I also went to nursing school at the same time. I was a collegiate D1 athlete, and that was rough. Because you miss a lot of hours of both, right? So, but you can't miss too much. I would say though, out of all of it though, I'm a people pleaser and I like people to like me. And being the coach, well, I'll just tell you, the first day I showed up to FSU, all the athletes go up to the top of like over by the football field, you go up to the top, and I walk in and somebody, not them, I mean, it was just one of the advisors, and they're like, they said the cheerleaders are go this way. And I was like, whoa, that's not where I'm at. So that just kind of, guess, tells you, right, personality type. But no, maybe I missed my calling. But no, I was like, no, I'm here for softball. But I would say that is that to me was the hardest, is that a coach that you come so far away from home, and it's how they speak to you, how they, right, like body language, all of that as you are playing, and you already are so far and you're still so young, right? And as an athlete, you question yourself all the time. Am I good enough? And so that just starts feeding into your brain. But luckily I have my dad to call every day, and I almost picked up and left. We were talking to another college at that time. And this is where I was like, no, I'm sticking in it. So I'm going to do this. And again, the best thing ever is when you stick in, you just dig your feet in. You're like, okay, let's grow. Let's do this. Which at the end of that, sorry, my son is here making his lunch. If you can hear the background
No,
noise.
it's fine.
But digging in, for me, that's when the beauty happens. When you're like, you make the decision, I'm staying, I'm not going to go to where it's easier, right? The word easy, I don't do the word easy. I'm like, let's dig in, let's do this, which then I was able to have a super high batting average, had many awards, and things like that. So sticking in there, that's what I always tell my boys, you know, when it gets hard, that's when you dig in harder, right? You just, so yeah, kind of all
Yeah,
around it.
one of my friends, she's a two-time national champion softball coach, Hall of Famer at LSU,
Mhm.
Kathy Compton, and she talks about that same thing about, one thing that she loved about being a coach or playing sports is it teaches you to do the hard. Because if you're going to play, there's always someone who wants your job
Mhm.
or had your job who wants it back.
Right.
So you have to really get through that. But then you also have to learn the value of team, right? It's not just about you and your stats, it's about team.
Yep.
So how did what you learn on the softball field or even in gymnastics translate into the classroom for a nurse? Because that's another profession that gets very few accolades, but is really hard.
Yes. So nursing, I mean, I've always wanted to be a nurse. Like it was one of those things that when I was like little, I always said, I want to be a neonatal nurse or I wanted to be a flight nurse. So, and one thing I realized is I'm really good in intense situations. I'm very calm in super tense situations. I actually, that's one piece of nursing right now I actually miss is that like the life-saving, like, love that stuff. But I mean, it all learning to work as a team is everything. I mean, it is as a family. We have to work here at the house as a team. Nursing is, you don't save a life on your own. You have to work together. And when that whole team comes together, but to me, you know, it's the whole hospital coming together, you know, from the time you check in, from the time you go, like it's all one team unit. And yeah, no, nursing is one of the most number one, like team efforts. It's never a one man. Like the doctor can't do his job without a team.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you're a people pleaser, and does that come from being the middle child, trying to
Totally.
balance
Yes.
the family dynamic as a middle child?
Yep. 100%. Yep.
So when you take that into the real world, um, that's kind of a tough way to live life because if you're always being a people person or a people pleaser, then when do you get to actually be Staci?
Right. It's a good question. That's
So when did you learn to be Staci?
you know, I think that's just it's as you grow into that, right? And then, but I can't say that's any different than other people because I feel like even just watching all my kids and then their friends and they're not people pleasers, but I still see them trying to grow and to figure out like who am I? Who am I when my parents aren't there? Or, you know, that kind of thing. So for me, I still fight with in my head, right? With the people pleasing. And I always have to take a step back. Like they always talk about the conversations going on in your head. Like who doesn't have
Mhm.
that, right? But there's a full conversation going on. It's like, wait, hold on. I have to step back and say, is this truly what I want? Is this going to serve me and serve my family, serve, you know, bigger? Or am I trying, oh, sorry, or am I trying to please someone, you know? So I think it's a journey, honestly, learning how to not be a pleaser, but I still find that pleaser here and there. So she still comes
Did
in.
your family dynamics help with that philosophy, or was it where did I find most people don't just innately understand themselves. They either model it from somebody or read something to help them with it. Because you've always seemed pretty put together for the time that I've known you, the last 5 or 7 years. And, it's interesting because I've known you to be a very high energy person, but then you say you have this calming thing when you're in distress. And I'm trying to, in my mind, wrap those two pictures together. But again, where did you learn that dynamic of yourself? Because that's not just innate to most people.
The calming or the crazy?
The awareness of that you're trying to be a people pleaser, and when is it people
Right.
pleasing and when is it Stacy?
So, honestly, one of the coolest things, not to jump into Juice Plus, but joining this business 21, I'm getting ready to sign my 21st year. Um, becoming an entrepreneur, um, starting to self-development, right? Growth. And of course, all through sports, you start learning about yourself. You have to figure out how to work through pressure, how to go, do things like that. But I would say my biggest thing would be my dad. I remember him, like we'd be going to Vegas and we're in the back and he just loves to drive, but he's always listening to like Tony Robbins. He's listening to like all of the gurus, right? He always has that in. And let's be honest, like everything you hear, you are what you listen to, right? So although I wasn't listening to that kind of stuff at that time, right? You're sleeping, ignoring, I mean, no
Yeah.
cell phones back then, right? But you do hear it, but you also do what your parents do. And so all of that started where you always want to become better. And again, I think that's an athlete too. You're like, how can I get that little edge? What can I do to become a better mom, a better nurse, a better friend, a better wife, a better, so then it just becomes a journey. But I feel like a lot of that started with my dad back in the day, traveling places and turning on things that I'm not listening to, but obviously somehow they got in through osmosis of some sort, right?
But
So,
that's the beauty of if you watch family dynamic, my own children, your children, whatever, they may not tune in, but they're actually observing and innately inheriting those behaviors. They either decide this is behavior that is for me or this is behavior that is not for me. And but either way, they're learning to model something. So the
right,
fact that your dad had it on, um, it was being modeled to you
right,
um, to,
absolutely.
to determine, hey, this is serving me well or not, whether you had to put a name on it or not. So you've been married for quite a while now. Where did you meet your husband?
So we met in high school.
Oh,
So, well, I was in high school. I'll tell him he's so much older. He just turned 50. So now that he's 50, he's so much older. Um, but yeah, so I was a senior in high school and we just met through a friend of a friend and started dating then. I remember he likes to talk crap and I guess I like that. So I like sarcasm. And so he's like, "Oh, you got slow bat speed." I was like, "What do you know about slow bat speed?" Like seriously. So, we went on our first date to the batting cage. He tells this story all the time to people. And we go in, it's like one of our first dates. And I'm in like summer dress and some like wedges, some heels. And I go into the batting cage because we're like, all right, well, then let's go. And so we walk in the batting cage back in the day, I knew the guy and, you know, I grabbed the bat that I always use there and we go and he thought I was going to go on softball. And I was like, no, like we're going to baseball. It's as fast as it goes. Nobody does the softball part of that, right? At the cages, at least back in the day. I don't know what the softball players do now, but it was just faster. And so we went over there and I went and just did a couple bunts. He's like, and then all of a sudden, all these people come around because you're all dressed up like on a date and you're
yeah.
like, and he's like, then you start going. And then he's like, nope, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in front of all these people. So we started dating back then and for years. And then when I went to Florida State, he actually went with me. So we were dating
Oh,
for 3 years
nice.
at that time.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah,
And you've been married how long now?
yeah, 21 years.
Wow. High school sweethearts, sort of. Uh,
Yep.
and together that long. That's an amazing testimony in and of itself.
4 boys and he's still hot. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
There you go. And so when you decide that it's time to go full into nursing, how long did you stay in the nursing field?
I was in the nursing field we were just looking at this yesterday. I was a nurse since 2003, December 2003. And then I probably walked away from the hospital probably about 7 years ago.
Okay.
So
So
a long time.
17,
So
yeah.
yeah, 17 years,
Yeah.
15,
And
17.
during that time, you mentioned that you've been in Juice Plus now for 20 plus years. So obviously you were doing both. Uh,
Yep.
this tells me how crazy you are. A, being an entrepreneur myself, I understand what that takes and what that means. Even if you're doing it as a side gig,
Mhm.
it's never your side gig. It's so you're doing your athletics, you're doing your nursing, you're doing your side gig, you're doing marriage, and then you're raising a family. No wonder you got a little ADHD in you.
What bounce and place advice? It's funny you say that because there is this write-up my senior year at Florida State. My boys have it in their room. And it was in, I think it was in the newspaper there. And it just talked about how busy I was at FSU because I was in nursing school. They don't even allow softball players to do nursing school anymore while you're playing. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't work. But they were talking about how busy I was in this, and the boys were reading it, and I'm like, I know it's funny because that was busy, but then I guess I just like busy. So, and not busy. I don't like the word busy. I like full. So while I'm here on this earth, I have air in my lungs. I'm like, let's go.
Well, what got you to take a look at entrepreneurship and in the field that you did, which is basically supplements, uh, to a better degree, because I know a lot about Juice Plus, but still not an easy quote unquote sell. I mean, uh, what made you choose that particular endeavor for your entrepreneurial path?
Um, so my mom introduced to me literally, well, she's showing me, and then she's like, and I was like, oh, whatever, no, no, no. And then she's like, well, you just watch this video as a nurse. I want to get your opinion. It's so funny how we're so close-minded at a lot of things in life, right? Not just this, but just things we think we know, but we really don't, you know?
Yeah.
And so I sat down and watched I think it was probably a VHS. I don't even know, you know? So I sit down and watch this video. It's like 15 minutes from a doctor or whatever. And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I need this so bad. And I don't know. So the crazy part is, and not many people know this, but I was a closet smoker back in the
Mm.
day. So as an athlete, collegiate athlete, as a registered nurse, I was the closet smoker. So when I was introduced to this simple way to get more plant produce in, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because I wanted to offset the habit. Does that make sense? So I had a bad
Yeah.
habit. So then I
Right.
was like, well, how can I offset this? It's funny now because my kids will bring up that I did that back in the day and they're like, ooh, you know? And I'm like, I know. But at the same time, you know, I saw I had a bad habit and I needed to offset it. And so, but at the same time, I didn't become an entrepreneur. I always say it was never on purpose, but God always has a purpose, you know?
Mhm.
And so he had a purpose before I knew about it. And sometimes I just wish you'd give me like the 411, just give me the heads up what's going to go
Right.
down. You know?
Yeah, we all want the
So
bullet points.
yeah, give me that. And so he literally, so at the same time, I signed up to do the opportunity, but never to actually do the opportunity. Pretty much I was just getting a discount. And my personality type is if I can help you, Daryl, in any way whatsoever, I'm going to. Like if it's a mop, I'm going to tell you about it. If it's something with my car that, you know, I got this new, my water bottle, the big water bottle, the hydro flask. You know, I
Mhm.
got this new container or that holds a hydro flask in my car. So it's not flying all over the car. Everybody knows about it because it was a lifesaver. So if anything makes sense to me, I'm going to tell people. And so that's exactly what I did. I was not your salesperson at all. I wouldn't even consider myself an entrepreneur now, 100% entrepreneur. Um, but that was not who I was then. But the more and more I learned about nutrition, and I learned about the medical field, and I learned that you have to take care of your own self and what that looks like. It was totally opposite of where I came from, I should say. And, but I mean, it was probably took me, because it was a super, super side gig for many years, until the more and more I learned. The more you learn, the more you can't keep your mouth shut. Like you're like, I have to tell you. Like, so then it just ended up becoming a business, and I remember even there was a certain time at the hospital because I was missing out. I love the nursing career because your hours, you work 3 days. Well, then you have a lot of extra stuff you have to do, whatever, but 3 to 4 days. And then the rest is with your family. But when you have 4 kids in 5 years, life gets a little hectic, and trying to schedule in just 3 12-hour shifts. I was looking at my calendar, like, I don't even know how I'm going to fit this in. Right. And then they start their little sports and, flag football at the church. And so, all of that, I remember one day at the hospital, because I would get messages from my, babysitter, and she would send me messages about like, oh, look, Luke's walking, talking, like all those little milestones. And there was just something eating inside me, which I'll tell you this, I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was never in me. And my mom did that, and I feel like she lost herself. Yet at the same time, I found this to be something you could have both. You could have you could have your career and be the mom or dad, whatever that looks like. You get to choose your life. You get to choose. Yeah. So with that, I remember one day at the hospital when I just got a message about my son, and I was like, this is with me not putting effort in, and probably because we doubt ourselves, right? I think most of the times when it comes to entrepreneurial endeavors, I think it's because we doubt we can do it and what people are going to say. And then I remember like, well, what if I just tried? What if I just went for it? But I'll tell you, once I decided, making the decision, no matter what it was, decision to play softball, decision for nursing school, I guess decision to have 4 kids. Once I made that decision, everything changed. A lot of times, in the entrepreneurial world, is people will put a toe in and they don't think they can do it because they didn't put their whole foot in. You just have to go in and then surround yourself with people that are going to keep cheering you on,
Yeah, I think it's you said a lot of important things there, but some of the things I coach my clients on, like I'll use the example, if you swim, did you learn to swim by reading a book and sitting on the shore, or did you get in the water and flail around for a little bit and then
Yep.
learn to swim? And I think it's the same in entrepreneurial life. Not everyone needs to have a side hustle or a side gig or a business, but whatever it is you do, I don't care if you're the janitor or the president, do it to the best of your ability with full intentionality, and make that decision that this is what you're going to do. And then it becomes, a life that you can live. But I think you also need to be not only intentional, but it has to be to serve others.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as it's about you, that's when you have the doubt and the fear and all that other stuff. But when it becomes about somebody else, and I'll give this podcast as an example. When God told me that I was supposed to do this, I didn't even own a camera or a microphone. And I said, "What?" And I fought it for 6 months because I didn't want to be doing this. It wasn't the vision that I had. But he told me to give a platform for the voiceless, a place where they can turn their mess into their message through a survival guide for somebody else. And once I stopped making it about me and the microphone and just turned it on and interviewed people like you, it's been 80 episodes now of incredible people with incredible stories, and watching other people respond to them and get hope from them, and then watching some people who've never shared their story start to blossom and feel comfortable with who they are. So when it became about somebody else, that's that's when it had the impact. And I think that's what you find as
Yeah.
well. When it's not about you, you have the most impact on those you're trying to serve. You
Yep.
find it to
100%.
be
Yeah, because you have to, well, you have to get out of your head, right? You have to get out of your head and you have to go into your heart. And this
Mhm.
is in all, like in all things. And so, yeah, no, I am 100% on board with what you just said. So that was a good analogy. And yeah.
so when did you, it's funny because the industry that you chose is nutrition, health, which dovetails into your uh, nursing, but also because of the style of business it is, it's team building, it's working, it's building others up, which is your sports and your athletics and, you know, all of that. So all of those bricks that were laid from a childhood on have now served you into becoming the woman that you are today. And you're very successful. You treat others with such respect, which is why I respect you.
Oh,
You're always willing to give a hand to whomever with no expectation of what it does for you. And that's one of the reasons I genuinely love you and your family, because you have a giving servant heart without any expectation for yourself.
oh, that is very sweet of you. Thank you for those kind words. Um, I I love people. Love people. I'm put here, like I said, with air in my lungs. I'm here to serve. I'm here to give. And each person is totally different in how you give, how you are there to support. Um, I love to be people's cheerleaders. I like to pick them up, dust them off, like, let's go, Um, so yeah, I still have that athlete mindset of like, come on, come on. But also at the same time, a lot of people in the world, that's, I can't come out. I can come out my boys like that, but my team, no, it's, we all want something different, and the number one thing is listening to them to see what is it they want? What is their goal in life? Not what my goal is. I won't get anywhere if I go after my, only what I want. But serving other people, gosh, you just think of, when my time does come, I just think of the light you just leave all over, like pieces that you've left. That's to me is everything.
So how long did it take you to quit smoking once you started
Oh, that
your
was, so yeah, I know. So oh gosh, I would actually go to conference and I'd be hiding smoking. Nobody knows. So just so you know, like I was like a super closet smoker. And
why does Stacy always smell like Febreze? I don't understand.
right. No, I would be more like holding it up here, walking away from it, like, why, what is that lady doing? Um, but and I don't when I made the decision, cold turkey, it was just like, this is stupid. Doesn't serve me, doesn't serve my family. It doesn't, I lost my grandma at 56 to lung cancer. And it's crazy. And I always tell my boys, same thing, like, you are who you surround yourself with. And at this moment, I was surrounding myself, all athletes, but they have bad habits, right? And I think sometimes as athletes, you're just not the stress, but kind of the stress, and so it just, she's been doing it, a friend of mine, for years, and I didn't do it. But then over time, then you just start lighting the cigarette for her. And then all of a sudden you're like, what happened? And so it's crazy. And that's why I tell them, I was like, it doesn't just all of a sudden you just say, I'm going to become a smoker today. Or whatever habit you pick up, it doesn't just happen like that. And so it's who you surround yourself is everything. And yeah. And so the day I decided, it was just like, well, that's over. So yeah.
Nice.
And I don't look back.
Again, a decision and you
Yep.
went with it, right?
Yep.
So your boys, you post on the baseball games all the time and how they're doing. I think one is a high school graduate now, right? Going to
Yeah, he's
college,
playing in college. Yeah. He starts his
playing
playoffs this week.
playing ball in college. So, did your boys choose to be athletes, or was it emulated so much in your house they had no choice but to become athletes?
Right. You listen here, suckers. No,
Sorry, we're going to the game. You're not. So
I know. Do you want to go to the game or you want to play in the game?
yeah.
Just kidding. No, our biggest thing is we want our kids to try new things. So they're going to be in some kind of sport, 100%. Now, if they went out and played, we did flag football at our church, and it was awesome. But if they hated it, we would have tried something new. Or, we would have kept trying. If they're like, no, I want to pick up we have a guitar here. I bought it and nobody uses it. Actually, Luke did use it last night as we were cleaning the kitchen. I was like, that's not really music, but, hold on just a sec. Sorry. My son called and it came on my computer. Okay. So, yeah, no, we played that, yeah, flag football, and then each one played, they loved it. I wasn't going to do baseball early on because I mean the t-ball, it just seems really boring at a young age. And so my oldest didn't even play until I think he was 11 or 12. He played Little League. I think 11 he played Little League, and then he joined a club team at like 12U. I think 12U was his first. And he just fell in love with it. He was actually probably, I still look at it today and we're like, oh, that was funny. Like I probably have a picture somewhere, but 2 years old, he was holding a bat and it was like such a perfect stance. And we were laughing. We're like, oh, that's funny. Like this was his natural sport. But so we like our kids to play multiple sports. So then, one, they don't get worn out, and it's good to just try new things, So most of them did football. All of them did football till junior high. And then Colton decided he wanted to try golf. So he did golf and then baseball. But I always go back to my kids and ask them, what is your goal? Like, is this something you still want to do? Do you love it? That kind of stuff, because I know we can get so wrapped up in wanting into, again, pleasing, right? They want to play, so then they fit in. Like, to be a Zacher, I have to be a baseball player. And it's like, no. You're going to do something, because you're not going to, like, sitting around playing video games is not an option in our house. So you're going to do something to better yourself and strive for something. I have a feeling I'm raising a bunch of entrepreneurs. So
Well, they're modeling what they see.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
all learn how to wear their hats backwards so far. I've seen that in the videos. They got
Yeah.
that part down.
Yeah, they got that and they're feeling it. But yeah, no, you're right. They do model. Like, there's things, again, like we kind of talked about, you are what you surround yourself with. You are what you read, what you listen to, what you hear, and there was one time my littlest one came up to me. Oh, he was actually going to bed, and he was probably only 6 at the time, 7, and he was young. And he's like, hey, Mom, I know every one of these quotes, because I always put quotes and verses all over the house, or, and in their rooms they have them. And he's like, watch this. And he closes his eyes, and he was able to read every verse or quote that's in his room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, so amazing. Because you don't think, of course, you want to surround themselves with that kind of stuff, but you don't realize they're really consuming it. And so, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
So,
same way you did with your dad.
absolutely. Well, and being with the boys, there is a huge piece of that is being very intentional. Is like our drives to school. We listen to John Maxwell in the morning, the Minute with Maxwell. And then we read the Jesus Calling book, just that little page for the day. And again, I don't know if the olders do it, but it is one of those, by doing it, you're showing them.
Yeah, I love that. As a Maxwell certified coach, I love anyone who takes a minute with Maxwell, because he takes his entire legacy and puts it in a 60 or 90-second little digestible blurb,
Yes.
and you get to internalize it.
Yeah.
Curious, and I know you guys have a batting cage on property. I know that did your husband eventually get in the batting cage with you?
Oh, of course he did. Well, and then I can't remember when, there was one year, and it was like probably like maybe on our 20th. 20th anniversary. And he's like, all right, game on, let's go again. I was like, wait, hold on, my eyes don't work. So we went back to the batting cage, which it took me a couple, and I was like, okay, I got it. But
Same
yeah,
sundress and heels.
yes, always, always. But it's funny because I always say, oh, the boys got their athletic ability from, me. They didn't though, because my husband is an amazing athlete. He just didn't have, his lifestyle just didn't show that when he was young. Like his parents weren't all in that area, I should say, in the sports. And, but yeah, I'm like, he can pick up any ball or any sport and be like, okay. He's very competitive.
And what does he do for his day job?
He's a lineman. So it's
Oh,
funny because a lot of people, say my husband's a lineman, they'll ask and they think he's a football player, but then they meet his super big 5'10" and a half self.
yeah,
They're like, well, that
yeah,
does equal out. I was like, no, lineman, he climbs poles.
yeah, yeah.
So
And what is next for the Zacher household? You have kids in college now. You have some coming through the rest of school. Eventually, several years from now, you're going to be an empty nester. What's your big uh, bucket list thing to do? Because as you've set up your life, you can do it from anywhere.
right.
So,
Well, I have to say I'm so knee deep in momhood at this moment. Our schedule is bit crazy busy, crazy full. Um, but I'm not exactly sure. Like I love watching, helping them, guide them into where they're going, um, into either business, baseball, school, and guiding in that area. For me and Mark, it feels like a long time away. We got 6 years until, yeah, 6 years until, or five, 5 years until they're out of high school. Um, so I don't know. I love learning. I love to learn. I am so in love with learning about biohacking our bodies so we can live every single day with, at optimal level, I feel myself so I can feel amazing and every day have energy, right? Same thing. I love helping athletes do the same thing. Injuries happen on the field. I'm also in love with the mental side of sports. And that's one thing I'll probably start digging a little into is even coaching coaches um, on the field, because I really see from the day that I played and watching all of my boys play is the coaches wreck it, and not because they're awful people. They're wonderful, amazing people, but they learn what they learned, and I even believe this in parenting, you know, it's like we put a lot into our business and a lot into everything we do, but it's like, okay, well, I learned parenting from my parents who learned from their parents. And it's like, no, we have to grow into that too, right? So reading books, learning how to, so I feel like everything is about growth. And so I'm in a huge growth phase in all things that I do. I'm in love with many things. So, um, but yeah, I'm sure I didn't even answer your question there because I was kind of,
no, you did. And it's interesting to me because when we look back at our childhood or college, there's usually out of the dozens and hundreds of teachers that we've interacted with, there's usually only one or two that really stand out still in,
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm decade older than you, but I look back 40 years into high school and there's only one teacher that stood out. I look back to elementary school, there's only one teacher that stood out. And those are the ones that actually, again, were there to serve those they're serving instead of themselves. And I feel it's the same way in coaching, whether it be athletics or coaching that I do, whatever. Those that are there to actually serve their people are the ones that have the most impact. And having been on both sides of that, I think you would have a real impact on them.
Right.
I think you could bring a lot to that table. And I think it's, the next evolution of passion to help those. But you were saying, that it's so far off that 6 years. And my brother-in-law said one time to us, if I live to be as old as my parents, I only have 20 more Christmases left. Well, when you put it in that context, 6 more Christmases till your kids are out of the house, not a lot of time, right?
Just kidding.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
I
that
know
was a
it.
tears of joy. I saw it.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah, and I love every day is an absolute darn gift, like every single day. And my biggest thing, like when you talk like that, with having 6 Christmases, and it's so true, but it's making the most of it, and a lot of times, everything you're saying is spot on. I was just talking to a friend the other day about, if you don't stop and take the time to see what you want, how are things going, needs to change, where do I want to go, you end up in a cycle of doing the same thing over and over and over. And you're like 10 years later, you're like, I didn't even like it 10 years ago, or
Mhm,
whatever that is. And so I'm really big into like stopping to see like, hey, hold on, I love to make memories. Like I want to do things with my boys that's like, you know what, let's get up, it's midnight, let's have ice cream right now, like things that will just sit in their brain. And like not just going to, my dad will ask me about, hey, do you remember when we played blah, blah, blah? And it was like, two, bottom of the, and I was like, not even a clue who that is, But I do remember our coach when we were little playing this, this little piggy on our toes at 12 when we were out of town, all staying in a hotel together, like, and so I think of that and it's like helping other people realize, really bringing sports to what they truly are, bringing them fun. And if you love the sport, you'll continue to go. And but in life in general, everything is, I tell the boys, everything's like a quarter inch of a shift difference. You'll land in a totally different place. Yeah, right now it looks like you're in the same place. Like even if you just drink one more glass of water,
mhm,
everything is like, start simple. Like my entire life changed because it was one simple change at a time, right?
mhm,
Just one simple, I wasn't trying to change the whole everything about me. But what happens is when you do that one little thing, everything changes, because then you're like, oh, try this now, try this now. And that's what I tell everybody in life. Everything is just like a quarter inch of a shift and you just change, but you have to stop for a second, take a deep breath and figure out, where do I want to go? What do I want? And am I on the path to that? And is the circle of people I'm with, is that lift me up or does that bring me down? Do they help you see the good in life and the good in people, or they help you find the bad in everything?
yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I could just keep talking.
No, I think you're right, and I think it's important when we're out there doing life. It is the court, because if you're building a house and you start off and you're a eighth of an inch off at the start, by the time you get to the end of your roof, you're like
So true.
4 feet off, right? So, and we do have to course correct throughout life, but you got to keep moving forward and pivot to that course correction. You can't just sit and, oh, dang, I was off by a quarter inch. No, make the adjustment and keep
Right.
moving forward.
And to be okay with
Um,
mistakes. Like one of
yeah.
the books I read, I forget which book it was called, and she talks about, about like her dad used to ask her all the time, hey, how did you not mess up? But, because if you're not messing up, like if you're not trying hard enough, right? And even on the ball field with the boys, or even in the business that I'm in right now, right? If you play it safe always, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And but yeah.
Well, you're as a Maxwell person, one of John's best books that I ever read was Failing Forward,
Mm,
because it was the first book that taught me as a young boy that it's okay to use your failures, quote unquote, as stepping stones instead of stopping stones. And if you're not out there trying, you're not doing anything. But baseball is a perfect analogy. Like if you bat 300 or above, you're considered really, really good. But if you actually examine that, that means 7 out of 10 times you're sitting your ass on the bench.
yep.
You didn't
You
hit
fail.
anything. Yeah, you
Yeah.
failed.
Yep.
So, it's the, and Babe Ruth was not only the home run king, but the strikeout king, yeah, at the same time.
It's
Like
true.
you have to be willing to give it your all and be okay with the learning experience of failure, not just the accolades of success. I think that makes
Well,
a person better.
yeah, and as you're saying that, it also makes you think, like, if you don't go all in, like if you don't fail forward, right? Like failure is just part of the game. Failure is just part of life. If we're not failing, we're really not doing anything,
Mhm.
and trying new things and stuff. But um you have to try all of these things. Baseball is, like you said, it's such a perfect analogy of it, because with my boys, again, as they are failing doing things, but you have to try, like you have to try to throw the guy out at first. Yes, you might throw it away, but you know what, when it comes down to it, in the bottom of the seventh at the World Series, if you didn't try it then, you sure as heck can't do it now, and you're like, and so learning, and that's the part with coaching too, is even teaching the coaches, like, you have to fail forward. Like, you want your team, you want your kids, you want your people to try new things, to see. You don't even know what you can do until you try it.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I think it's important, and life is a never ending journey of trying it. My wife and I were just talking about this the other day. Um, Tom Brady, because she grew up in Boston, and so of course she was a huge Patriots fan. Um, but I was, telling her like Brady is considered by most who don't hate him for personal reasons
right.
to be the greatest player in his sport at his position of all time. Yet, 23 years into playing it at a professional level, let alone all the pee wee and college and all that, every day he was still out there practicing.
Yep.
Do you think he knew how to throw a pass? Do you think he knew a route by 23 years in? Yes. But every day he was honing his craft to be the best that he could be. And I think every day we have to hone our craft, whatever that is, dusting floors, selling Juice Plus, whatever. You
Right.
have to hone your craft every single day to be good at it. But along the way, you have to let those failures teach you how to be the better, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, that's a conversation we have with the boys all the time. A champion isn't made at practice, it's made in the backyard, right? It is
Yes.
made off the field when everybody is sleeping. What are you doing? When everyone's going out, what are you doing? And, it's funny because anytime I have these conversations with my kids about pushing harder, their goals and how they're going to hit this goal. And I just told my husband, every time I say this, I always have to come back to myself, because whatever I share with anybody else, I'm like, wait, hold on. Am I being true to myself too? Right? Am I where am I pushing myself to the limit? Am I pushing to be what I'm telling them to go out and get uncomfortable? Right. And so I always have to look inward and say, okay, all right, I have so much more in me and more to give the world. Because if I expect my kids to go out there and get uncomfortable, darn dilly, I'm going to too. So,
So that leads me to two things. Well, I have three because my mind goes like yours, 100 miles a minute.
right.
Um, what was one of your biggest quote unquote failures that propelled you forward the furthest?
My biggest failure. There's a lot of them. Hmm. Okay, so the biggest failure that I picture in my head is actually at FSU. It was like the bottom of the seventh. We win that game, we would go into the World Series. We won the first one, but then we had a rain delay and kind of whatever. Well, I played it safe and was waiting for the player, so I kind of lobbed the ball to second instead of firing it because she wasn't there yet, and it went over her head. They scored. They got to third. That play right there, I tell my boys, that plays in my head still today, still today. But I also tell them, but guess what? Life goes on. So I failed, and you fail in front of a lot of people. That's one thing about sports, right? There's a lot of amazing things. And so then you try to go to focus on what were the great things that happened. that's a new lesson that I'm trying to do, is like the great golf shot, right? You know, people love golf because they make that one shot. So it like gives them like, oh, I love this. Let's keep going, you know, forget
Yeah.
all the failures that happen. So I'm trying to live more in that aspect of, yes, I want to fail, but you know what? My focus though is like, as I go to bed, looking at all of those amazing miracles and all the amazing things that happened in that day, and not just how I failed, because I failed really big in front of a lot of people. But it just really goes to show in all of that, in all of that, I'm still here today. I lived through it. And you wake up the next day, it's a new day. Every day is another day. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I love that you had that awareness and that you still carry it with you because it still propels you in what you're doing. And
Yep.
so if anyone is out there listening and trying to just make it, get through, what would Stacy's advice to them be?
You have everything in you right now. You know, we doubt ourselves. We think we don't, you know, we're not the smartest. We're not it, like all of those things go in our head. But I want you to know you have everything in you right now to succeed in whatever you are going to do. It's in you. God placed it inside of you, and just push through. Surround yourself with people that are going to bring that best out of you, and that are going to be your cheerleaders, and not doubt you, because they are going to lift you up, and you are going to fall, and it is okay to fall. Dust yourself off, get back up. You have this. But yeah, that's the huge part, is you got it all in you now.
I love that. And be confident enough that if it was given to you, there's a reason to get it through you.
Yes. And if
So,
you have air in your lungs,
yeah.
you got work to do.
Well, again, I go back to some of the things that I help, my clients with, and they always think, well, there's other people doing it. There's other people. Why will? And I always just say, go to the grocery store and look at the bread aisle. There are 30 different varieties of bread. They're all sliced. They're all in a paper, a plastic wrapper, but somebody's buying each one to serve in some other capacity. So whatever it is you're doing and whatever your gift is, it was meant to come through you, not through someone else.
100%.
So
That's beautiful. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's great as to now. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do this today because I love, adore, and respect you.
Oh, thank you.
And I love your product. I'm going to give you a little opportunity to promote Juice Plus. Just tell its benefits, how what it's done for you and your family. I know what it's done for ours,
Right.
and we'll also include some links. So if people want to get in contact with you, we'll give them an opportunity. But I don't normally give the shameless plug
Right.
opportunity, but I am for you because I believe in you, believe in the product. So go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, this is all about you guys. And so, to be the best athlete, mom, dad, employee, CEO, no matter what you do, you have to feel your best. That's it, and it gets so confusing out there. So I totally am with you. If you go to the aisles or commercials and you're like, oh gosh, that looks good and that looks good. This is the thing. 20 plus years ago, I found a simple way to get more fruits and veggies. Like that's it. It's super simple. It is a food label. If you were to go shopping for it, you guys, it is literally in the produce section. We do not get enough produce in our diets. They say 9 to 13. They used to be 3 to 5, 5 to 7, and we still don't get the 3 to 5, right? So 90% don't get enough. And the detriment of not getting enough, you guys, is your energy. And if you don't have energy, that's your life. That's your livelihood in everything you do. But that's just not that. Like if you look at heart disease, you look at cancer, 1 in 2 get cancer. Like you start looking at these stats, and it's not because you're not getting your vitamins, right? This is not, you are not vitamin deficient. You are whole food deficient. So this is where I found, again, I'm not your salesperson, that it's just something that made so much sense to me, and that you don't see it out there. And in the 21 years, this is the thing. My personality type is, if I found something that was better, I wouldn't even be doing this anymore, because my personality type is I have to tell you about that. And so this has been one of those game changers, and you underestimate the power of getting it in that much produce and 30 vine ripened fruits, veggies, and berries in your body every single day. So it's for your good days, your bad days, your hard days, your travel days. It doesn't matter. And 21 plus years, success leaves clues. And this has been a success for our family. Every single one of my boys, it was my prenatal. And then today they are, we have a collegiate athlete and the rest of all athletes, and 0 injuries playing football and baseball. And it was just one of those things that it's like, this is that one simple change that literally drastically, all I had to do is take these either capsules or chewables every day, that then changed my taste buds, that then changed my DNA, changed my cells, and that's it. And kids eat free. So my kids have eaten it for free. So that's it.
Well, I also, as someone who has used the product, I love the nutrients that come from it, because you're right, we don't get enough of our fruits and vegetables, but these help with the nutrient supplements. And the other thing that has really helped Elsa and I is the omegas.
Oh
You
gosh.
have
Mhm.
probably the best. I mean, and I I would challenge the FBI and the CIA to be as good a researcher as Elsa is. So she
Right.
studies everything because she had to get herself healthy from her own illness. And your omegas by far are the best that we've ever encountered.
Oh,
So
they're so good they can have their own company. Like it is mind blowing. And okay, so one of the things I've learned that if you, so 98% of the world is deficient in omega. So it's crazy because if you go to a doctor, they're not like, hey, are you getting your omegas in? Like there's no conversation, right? Take your vitamins. But if you are deficient, and again, 98% is, then you actually can't even absorb your fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K.
wow.
So it's crazy. But yeah, so the omegas are phenomenal. But another thing, so the research, you guys, and most people, I mean, people take stuff that does zero research. And so the thing is on this is what I fell in love with as a nurse, because you want it to know if you're taking it, it's actually doing something and not just a little sexy bottle. So
Right.
uh, the one that I love to share, and I'm going to share with you guys, is because heart disease, like usually the first symptom is heart attack and you die, right? And there is, so it's the fruits, the veggies, the berries, and then the plant-based omega. But when you put those together, there's a research done in American College of Cardiology that shows, and if you're interested, we can send you the research on it, that actually after a high fat meal, your arteries close up. Okay. When you take the fruits and veggies, they keep them open around 67%. But when you take those dark berries with it, it actually almost zero occlusion that keeps your arteries open. So talk about your body functioning. If you were able to have better circulation to your fingers, to your toes, to your, like everything about you, it's amazing. So, I mean, I truly could talk about this forever because it's one of those things, like in my brain, it's a no-brainer. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you just can't find better. And I haven't over the 21 years. So, and it's been around for 30 something years now.
Well, and the fact that you're a nurse, I know that you want the best for you and your family and for others. So that's why I took a look at it. And that's why it's worked well for Elsa and I. And that's why let you just give your plug in. But
Yeah.
one thing that I'm going to ask that I ask all my guests, what does a warrior spirit mean to Staci?
A warrior spirit. Hold on, my phone's messing up. Dad's calling. See, talk to him multiple times a day. And our brains go back and forth. Warrior spirit. Um, I feel everybody has that warrior spirit inside of them. It's that piece of, it's that one talking to you about getting up, right? That one telling you, um, when you get knocked down, I always think of Rocky, right?
Hmm.
It's about getting back up. It's in all things that you do. You have a warrior. Again, you have it all inside of you already, right? You just have to feed it, right? You have the two animals, the good and the bad. And so which one are you feeding? That's the one that's going to take over. And that's your warrior, that one that's inside of you saying like, let's go. Yeah, you got it.
Well, I appreciate that you're in my warrior spirit tribe, and I love your energy and love what you're doing. And just thank you for spending, this hour with us. And we'll leave some links so others can get a hold of you. But just know that you're appreciated, and we adore you. So thank you.
Well, Daryl, you are an absolute blessing, you and your wife, to this world. So thank you. You were a gift. And thank you for having me on and listening to me for an hour. That went really fast.
Yeah, we try to make it quick. People are always like, well, what do I talk about? And I'm like, well, it's your story. You shouldn't have to study for it.
Yeah, no studying here, but no, I appreciate you and thank you for having me on. And yeah, if you ever need me, let me know.
I will. Well, you have a blessed rest of your day, and we will catch you later.
Thank you so much. You too.
Bye.
Bye.